What's up, G's? Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Shanghai Pete. It's a warm one for October here in Los Angeles, California, the city of angels. But we are live and alive. Hope everyone is enjoying the weekend, and sorry for the late drop. I planned to have the episode out Friday, but I didn't even get home until Saturday, so, well, you know how that goes. Anyway, what have you all been playing this week? I've been pretty much doing nothing but playing Metaphor and Silent Hill, both of which are surprisingly good. But I digress. We'll talk about that later. Another week, another deluge of idiotic industry idiocy, so let us grit our teeth and boldly venture deep inside once again. Just time for a quick recap of the week, which sadly was dominated by Bethesda doing even more Bethesda-ing. As some of you may have heard, the DLC follow-up to the brownish-brown HBO-coded snorefest that was Starfield Shattered Space recently dropped to what was, let's say, a great deal less than critical acclaim. Yes, good old Bethesda forgot the good part and instead just put out a stale, pathetic attempt to remind players that Starfield was supposed to be really good despite it being kinda really bad. I myself even pulled down a new torrent of it with the Shattered Space DLC, mostly to see if they had finally fixed any of its performance issues, but also to see if perhaps they managed to salvage the game a little, or at least address some of Starfield's major failings. Sadly, the answer to both those questions is a resounding no. After seeing it struggle to reach even 45 FPS in 2K on medium settings, with DLSS set to ultra performance, I have an RTX 3070 FTW for the record, I shut it off and deleted it again. Perhaps we'll give you another shot next year, Starfield. Maybe the modders will have made you tolerable by then. Unfortunately for Bethesda, many others felt the same way, with Shattered Space earning a Metacritic average of 61, ouch, and an average user score of 4.8, good lord. Good news though, if you actually like Starfield and just want a little more, it does sound like this DLC will do it for you. That is, if you can stomach the $30 asking price for what ultimately is like a 6-hour campaign. If you were hoping for anything else, well, yeah, sorry, I don't know. Bethesda, I think it's perhaps time you updated your methods even just a little bit. Games like The Outer Worlds make you guys look like amateurs. And in my opinion, you're kind of more of a mid-dev than anything else anyway, getting lucky more than actually intentionally designing good games. Alright, I think that's enough obligatory Bethesda hate for one episode. Moving on, we've got another awful exploitative and spreadsheet game design corpo to laugh at tonight though. This time it's Ubisoft. The answer to the question, which game dev is so catastrophically inept that they could screw up games about Star Wars, samurais, and pirates in a single year? Yes, they've been having quite a bad time with it recently. Stock prices in the toilet, live service games like Skull and Bones barely living up to their name, indeed being much more dead than alive in any sense, and even their recent Star Wars offering, Outlaws, failing to really garner any positive attention. Add to that all the myriad problems they seem to be having with their new Assassin's Creed game, and I don't know about you, but I would not want to be the guy leading their next earnings call. Seems the most recent bad news coming out of the European developer is that their much anticipated Assassin's Creed game Shadows is being delayed from next month, November 12th to February 14th, 2025. I guess they figured most people who would be super mad about that won't have anything to do on that day anyway. Sorry, that's a joke. I'm just kidding. Of course, they say blah blah blah, we need more time, thanks for being a fan, blah blah blah, needs more polish, fully deliver on ambition, blah blah blah. Most will probably jump to blame this on people freaking out about the Black Samurai. As funny as that is, I kind of doubt it. This sort of stuff is usually done by devs and corpos specifically to get all the press and uproar and media attention that's resulting from that stuff anyway, so I doubt any of that was actually not accounted for. Besides, it's not like they're going to completely remove and redo an entire main playable character in just a few months. It's much more likely that their pre-order numbers are low and that they're terrified after Star Wars barely managed to move 1 million copies in like 4 or 5 weeks. But what do you guys think? I haven't played an Assassin's Creed since like 3, so I don't really care. But are any of you fans of the series? Are you glad they're delaying to further polish, or does everything Ubisoft do now just piss you off? Let us know. Lastly this week, in a stunning change signaling a brand new fresh start for future Halo games, seems that 343 Industries will now be known as Halo Studios. What? That's the stunning change, switching names. Didn't 343 basically just mean Halo anyway? Oh, also, it says here that they're going to use the Unreal Engine instead of the Slipspace engine they've been pouring God knows how many resources in for God knows how many years. Now, Halo fans, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I'm pretty sure the engine hasn't been the primary problem for recent Halo games. Now, not to completely burn them down though, let's read according to IGN. The newly rebranded Halo Studios, for its part, is seeking to forge ahead under the leadership of Pierre Hintz and Elizabeth Van Wyck, with the studio now working on multiple new games. The three stepped into top roles at the studio in the wake of GM Bonnie Ross's departure in 2022, with series veteran Joseph Staten leaving Xbox in 2023. The new game and engine follows Xbox saying earlier this year that it's full speed ahead on a next-generation successor to the Xbox Series X. We had a disproportionate focus on trying to create the conditions to be successful in servicing Halo Infinite, but switching to Unreal allows us to put all focus on making multiple new experiences at the highest quality possible. Oof, alright, that's a lot of corpo speak. Now, not to completely contradict the illustrious Halo Studios here, but seems to me that trying to work on multiple games at once directly competes with the idea of ensuring that new experiences are of the highest quality possible. Last I checked, devs like you guys could barely manage to put out one game that wasn't total garbage at one time. Now you're gonna do multiple. I don't know, maybe it's just me. Let us know what you think of this in the comments. Is it possible to save Halo at this point, or is it just kind of scuffed and worn out its welcome? In my opinion, if they just made a banger solo campaign with a couch co-op and fun deathmatch maps, I'd be perfectly happy. I don't think many people want much more than that. Doesn't really sound too hard to me, but God knows how difficult doing the bare minimum has become for the games industry these days. Speaking of doing the bare minimum in the games industry, next up for our main story tonight, we do have to talk about the Silent Hill 2 remake. Sadly, I have not finished it yet because I have one of those accursed day jobs, or real job, that I'm unfortunately required to be at, and I haven't had enough free time to finish it. And to be completely honest, I'm probably playing a little bit more Metaphor than is strictly necessary as well, so there's that. That's why this will just be kind of a discussion preview video instead of an actual review. So let's get the shock out of the way. I'm pretty sure this is kind of good. I'm pleasantly surprised. Yes, really. So let us get started with some of the good stuff. Guys, the atmosphere is almost perfect. I really gotta hand it to the Bloober guys. It looks great. I think they nailed it. The environment art, the score, the textures, barring a few truly odd choices, are all excellent. Some areas and locations look practically like one-for-one recreations. Absolutely sick. Even the fog, which I wasn't sure how they deal with, especially since it was equal parts tech limitation and environmental storytelling device in the original, is well done. It conceals the surroundings just enough to seem creepy, but not so much that it feels like a crutch. It swirls around you menacingly, dissipating just enough as you move closer to dial up the tension without seeming silly. That sort of dreamlike vibe the original nailed so well feels pretty intact here, much to my shock, I will admit. And as I've said, I haven't finished it. I'm maybe about a third of the way through, so that could change, but so far, amazingly, so good. Equally, the character models and enemies also appear very well done from those I've encountered so far. The sort of fleshy, straight-jacketed ones stumble and leer, threatening at you as they lope across the street, and the ones confined to the floor skitter around in an appropriately unpredictable fashion, keeping you on your toes just enough as you frantically try to dodge around them. The combat, while not great in any sense of the word, does feel at minimum slightly improved from the barely competent mashing the melee button that we had in the OG. The dodge/dodge backwards mechanic is really well implemented, and mastery of it is essential to ensuring your health isn't constantly depleted by mobs' green acid spray and the surprisingly hard-hitting melee attacks from the legs guys. Question for the real Silent Hill heads out there though, are those little cockroach things in the original too? Maybe I just don't remember them, but their presence is really annoying here. Having these little tiny mobs that you can only see if you tilt the camera down just right, always popping up to trigger the radio feedback and nibble away at your health, is super obnoxious. If they were in the original, they suck more now, and if they weren't, then they were an objectively negative addition, in my opinion. Bad choice.
This isn't good.
One of the things that did surprise me though, aside from the fact that this isn't total garbage, was the effectiveness of the handgun. The straitjacket guys and the legs things each take several melee hits to kill on normal combat difficulty, several meaning like 4 or 5 at least, and due to their attack pattern, this means you cannot just mash melee, you have to dodge at least once during your melee combo, usually twice, before your repeated attacks with the board will take them down. First, nice job to the combat designers for trying to make it at least slightly interesting, but second, a nod to the guys tweaking numbers behind the scenes. Typically, the inclination here, especially in survival horror style games, is to just make every enemy a bullet sponge as another avenue to soak up your already meager resources. This is annoying in almost every implementation I can think of because it ends up incentivizing you to just run away and avoid the majority of combat, which might be optimal routing in some games, is very rarely the most fun way to play them. So it was a very pleasant surprise when, after I acquired the handgun, I found I could put down most enemies with a mere 2 or 3 shots. Not only does this ensure that the moment-to-moment gameplay is at least slightly more interesting than choosing to either endlessly flee from every mob or spend 30 seconds and possibly half a health bar mashing them down, but it's also, more importantly, more fun. Notably, I'm certainly not advocating for every survival horror game to instead be an action game or anything silly like that, but livening up the combat so it's more than just a choice of whether to run or dump resources into every enemy you encounter was a pretty smart choice here. I'm glad they did it. Maybe it gets worse later on, but from where I'm at, it feels pretty nice and shockingly like an actual improvement over the original. Whoa. Lastly, let us discuss some odds and ends, like the Pyramid Head scene. Yeah, that Pyramid Head scene. It's still there, so big grats to the Bloober guys for having the sack to include that and not censor it out like so much other stuff these days. On the backhand though, it could be argued that it's not quite as explicit as perhaps some people thought it was in the original. Ultimately, as long as it does the job, which I personally think it does either way, it matters far less than other more salient aspects of a game, let's say. It should also be noted that Masahiro Ito has been quoted as saying that while the scene is intended to appear slightly sexual to further enhance how disturbing it is, it's not actually meant to convey anything sexual. Some people have disagreed, saying that it's supposed to represent James's sexual frustration, etc. But honestly, I have no idea, and in the end, it's really up to your own interpretation, which I think is probably for the best. As far as puzzles and stuff go, I haven't really encountered enough beyond simply running across town to stick your hand in a hole in order to retrieve a jukebox button, so can't really apply any real judgment there. I think more than anything, my overall experience with this game so far is that it's making me wonder just how good the original actually was. Was running back and forth across overly dark maps to find random items while constantly dodging and avoiding all enemies really that fun? Yes, I think probably yes it was, but it is making me think about it a little harder than I would have previously, which I suppose is a victory in and of itself. Ultimately though, as you guys know, I am always more than happy to say when I'm wrong, and so far, the Silent Hill 2 remake is far better than I thought it was gonna be. Far better. A few gripes and nitpicks aside, I think the atmosphere is great. The score, while it does have its corny moments, is immersive and very well done, and I've been having a lot of fun playing it. As I said, I'm only about a third of the way through, so maybe that will change, take it with a grain of salt, but for right now, I'll say it. I was wrong. I think this is pretty decent. But what do you guys think? Am I wrong here? Do you think it sucks? Do you think it's great? Does this make you less terrified for the MGS3 remake? Let us know in the comments down below, and we will catch y'all next week for much more Rule 34 Pyramid Head.
Woke up, smoke up, blunt, then I pass out, woke up, what up, smoke up, blunt, then I'm back down, what? Yup, woke up, smoke up, blunt, then I pass out, woke up, what up, smoke up.